Everybody, tonight we are talking about grants. We're talking about grants for your nonprofit. If you want to get money for your organization and you're interested in trying to figure out how to get more grants, especially when you're small, especially when you're new, this is the live video for you. So I'm going to give y'all some time to get in for a little bit, but want to say welcome. Thank y'all so much for joining us for another Sunday night live. Y'all ready? Are y'all excited? I know a lot of y'all not here yet, but we about to go in. All right. So I'm going to be teaching tonight. Whenever I have my pencil out, that means I'm going to be sharing some nuggets. I'm going to be sharing information that's going to be really, really helpful. Okay. Hey, Sibis Mission. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Really, really helpful for you. That means you should have your notebook with you. Whenever you see me have this out, that means I'm actually going to go a little deeper on some stuff. And you can always have some information you could take away from my lives. But this one in particular, I really want to go deep on grants because there's a lot of misconceptions about grants. All right. So, y'all ready? Y'all know what to do. In the comments, please introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're from. Tell us about your nonprofits and what you do. Because why? This is a community. This is not just about you coming to learn, but this is about you coming to build community, to find people like you, to find your people. Because starting a nonprofit is one of the most isolating experiences ever. And I talked to hundreds, and I've really worked with so many of y'all, and y'all have told me people just don't understand. People don't know what it's like. I know. I was in your shoes. So this is the opportunity for you all to find your people and learn and grow together. All right. And so questions are coming in already. I'm going to try my best to answer and look at those questions. But tonight, I'm going to share 3 things you probably didn't know about grant writing that will help increase your chances of actually winning grants. All right. So if you are trying to pursue grants this year for your nonprofit, go ahead and put grants in the chat so we know who you are. So we know that so we know who the people are who need support. Okay, okay, okay. And I just thought about something I should have sent Yolanda. She gonna cuss me out. But if I just want to say something really quickly. I send out free grant opportunities every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want that information, I'm dropping the link in the comments for both Instagram and YouTube. Yolanda, I'm putting it on YouTube so you can see it and copy and paste. I'm sorry about that. All right. All right. Y'all ready? So this one, I'm going to try to be quick, but we'll see how it goes. 3 things you didn't know about grants. The first thing, y'all, grants cannot be used for everything. Look, like there's some caveats to this. I'm going to break this down, but I want to make sure we have the right approach when we're thinking about grants. Now, if you are an organization that a lot of what you do is buy things for people, you buy goods for people, you distribute goods, like you distribute food, or you pass through money to people, then grants aren't always they shouldn't always be the primary strategy for your organization. Why is that? Why am I saying that? Because a lot of grant funders, first of all, you got to understand there are different types of grants. The most common type of grant is a program grant. Somebody say program grant with me. Program grants. Go ahead and put that in the chat. You can say it. I'll trust that you're saying it in your room. I believe you. But a program grant typically covers program expenses. You're running a program, you may have materials that you need to buy, or copying, or staff time for people, right? So, program grants are the most common, but they can also be the most restrictive. Because if grant funder is going to say, you said you're going to spend it on this program, then first of all, you can only spend it on this program. And then they're gonna have some stipulations. Oh, you might not be able to spend it on staff, right? I just saw a grant. I just listed it in my grant opportunities. They said you can't use it for overhead. You can't use it for staff time. You can't use it for this, right? So a lot of times there's the fine print behind grants that you may not understand because you're so excited at the idea that you can get a lump sum of money, but you have to understand that grants can't always be used for everything. So when you're trying to pursue funding for your organization and you're so tunnel vision on grants, you may get a lot of grants. You may even be successful, but end up still not having the money you need to run effectively. Did that go over somebody's head? Like, you could literally get money from grants and still not have what you need to run effectively. Why? Because that money can only be used on certain things. That's why I always say grants can't be your only strategy. And especially if you are an organization that's giving money to people or distributing food or distributing goods to people, a lot of grant funders don't fund that. Now, there's some movement in that direction where some funders are okay with that, but it's a vast minority of them that really are okay with that. And most of them will only fund program materials, program related activities that are not passed through to individual people. Hey, Veronica. All right. So that's the thing. So grants aren't always going to cover what you really, really need. So what do you do in that situation? Hey, y'all, thanks, pretty. What do you do in that situation? You always assess the type of expenses that you need. Your budget tells you the type of expenses you need. And once you know the type of expenses that you have for your organization, you know that, okay, I need unrestricted money for this. So it can't be grants. It has to be sponsorship. It has to be some kind of earned income strategy. It has to be us asking individuals for money, just so we make sure that we actually have the money we need to run. Here's a little secret I'm going to tell y'all. You should be focusing on your infrastructure as much as you focus on your programming. Does this make sense, y'all? I always tend to go in a direction I didn't necessarily mean to, but when I feel like I should say some things so you're aware, I just got to say it, right? You should not just be so laser focused on covering the expenses for your program. You also need to be thinking about, how can our organization be healthy and well? And in order for your organization to be healthy and well, you have to invest in your infrastructure. You have to invest in paying for consultants and paying for your accounting services. And if you have staff, having some human resources support and paying people, right? Through payroll, all those kinds of things. Rita know what I'm talking about, right? Hey, Al. So I see you on YouTube. What? You know, upgraded. Hey, Al. So you should be, when you're thinking about like, okay, I need to raise money for my organizations. So many times we get so laser focused on the number that will cover just what we need to do. But you also need to figure out what that number is to support the functioning of the overall organization. And don't be ashamed of that. If you have to pay somebody to do your paperwork, if you have to pay somebody to make sure administratively you're running well, then you should include that in your budget and have the money you need to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of grant funders don't necessarily get that. Even some donors don't get that it's important to also pay for overhead. It's important to also pay for admin. But that's why you control that messaging and you let them know we also need money for this. Because if our organization is not well, our programs can't run well. If we're not investing in making sure our organization is overall healthy, then our programs can't be around for a long time. So you got to make sure you're clear on that. All right. So that's the first thing, y'all. I see a bunch of questions coming up and I'm going to circle back. But the first thing is, understand that grants can be used for everything. So, since you know that, you got to be strategic. You got to think about different types of money and how far that money will get you. Because if you earn money, like if you provide a service for somebody, that money is yours. You can use it however you need to use it. Can't nobody tell you what to do with your money if it's in your budget, right? So if you have unrestricted money, you can use it for the things to make you healthy. You don't have like a donor or a funder breathing down your back saying you have to use it this way. So make sure you are also including unrestricted types of funding. Y'all got that? I did not mean to hit that. I did not, but it fits, right? It fits. It really does fit. All right. Number two. Number two. Most, and this is the one that a lot of people are very, very surprised about. Most grant funders don't have websites. Most grant funders do not have websites. So when I do grant writing training, I ask this question. I'm like, how many foundations do you think have websites? Specifically foundations, right? Because there are different types of grant funders, y'all. It's not just government, it's not just, the federal government, is other foundations, it's corporations too. But when we're thinking about foundations in particular, less than 10% have websites. Less than 10% have websites. So what does that mean for you? Because this is the thing. A lot of times people are just Googling for grant funders, or they stumble upon a grant funder. Like if I post about it, or if another person on Instagram, or you just randomly hear about it. A lot of times, hey, Veronica, I see your question. I'm going to come back to it. A lot of times we just go off of what we see. And it's like what you see. Have you seen that meme where it's talking about like I think it's like starting a business. It's like a little hump above the ground. This is what people see, but under it is like all this stuff that's going on under it to make what's above ground work and function. It's kind of the same way. Like you only see the tip of the iceberg of what's out there in terms of grant funding for your organization. So if you're only relying on what you see from Google or what you hear like word of mouth, you are missing out on a significant, when I say significant number of foundations that exist out there. Okay. So what that means for you is that you have to have a strategy to find them. That it's not enough, because this is the thing. In order to win grants and be successful, you have to keep applying. You have to have a pipeline, right? You have to have a list of 10 grants that you're writing every month, or we're writing 50 grants for the year. And in order to get to at least 50 grants that you're writing for, to get to the number that you're interested in, you got to have that pipeline, right? So the first thing I'll just say to you, and I'm going to say it forever and ever and ever, is that there are so many opportunities for funding in your local community that you're missing. Your first stop is your community foundation always, but not just the grants that the community foundation is giving out. They manage funds for people. There are organizations that manage funds and foundations for other people. And so when they know about programming that exists in the area, they can recommend your organization for those people who have funds, right? But whenever you're looking for organizations, you always, especially if you're small and you're new, start with a community-led approach. Always start thinking about who is in my backyard. You know how in every community there's like a family name? It just seemed like, these are like some of the troubling roots in American society. But don't you know how like in every city, there are people who have like names on buildings, names of streets, names of areas. Like where I live, where I'm from, the Sassers. Like if you know, I don't even have to say where I'm from. If you know the Sassers, then that's a big name that you'll hear all around, right? I was in North Carolina this weekend, where my family is from, and there's the name of a big like park in a big recreational center, and actually the name of it was the last name of the sharecropper, or the guy who owned the land where my family sharecropped, right? So he was actually the landlord, and his name is now on a recreation center like 60, 70 years later. There are always these names, these families in these communities, and they have money. And one of the strategies for them to keep their money and to stay wealthy is to give money away so they don't have to be necessarily taxed on it. So it's an advantage for them to create foundations. It's an advantage for them to create these funds so that they don't have to pay tax money on their wealth. So they've set up these funds that oftentimes don't have maybe one person working in the organization. They don't have a website. They're managing all this themselves, and they're just giving out money based on people that they know about, based on people who are recommended to them. And sometimes they'll have an open process. It just depends, right? So you have to look at those who are in your local community and find those people who are connected and who have money. One of the easiest ways, just generally, I always tell people is to look at local, like big corporations, the corporations that aren't going anywhere, the corporations that are just going to, that fund our or fuel our economy, the corporations that are never going to go out of business. Certain banks are never going to go out of business, or banks in general are never going to go out of business. So they're going to have money that they're giving away. Grocery stores are never going to go out of business. Utility companies are never going to go out of business, right? Like our natural resources, those organizations that are connected to that manage our natural resources like water, like gas, even like transportation, like things like that. Those kind of corporations, they're not going anywhere. And more than likely, they either give money directly through their businesses, or they give through a foundation. So I want you to start thinking broadly around your strategy in terms of looking for who's out there who has attachments to money, because that's where you're going to find a lot of the hidden money. Walmart will not be going out of business, right? Well, let me tell you something. Anything can happen. I'm of the mind where, well, was it 15 years ago? We would have never thought something like Amazon existed, and now it does. And Walmart, let me just say, I appreciate what they have. Every Walmart store has the opportunity to give grants, but they don't really give big grants. They give between 500 and 2,500, which is really important, really, really important. But I wish they would give more. I really wish they would invest more, because most people only get like $500 from their local Walmart stores. But I really do recommend you guys start thinking more strategically about how you can connect to people instead of grant opportunities, how you can connect to organizations instead of grant opportunities. And that's going to connect to my number 3, which is the most important point of all. Right? So I want you to take a step back and say, who in our community has access to a lot of funding? Who typically has access or manages a lot of money? And that's one place to start in order to look for funding, right? That's one place to start. So the other thing I'm just going to share with y'all, and usually when I teach on grants, I share this. I'm going to give away the secret today. Y'all ready? Grant funders have to report who they give money to. Well, foundations. Let me just say foundations have to report who they give money to. So you can find out about what organizations give, how much they give through their 990 tax form. Just like y'all have to fill out 990s, so do they. So in your strategy of finding grants, part of your strategy should be looking at 990 forms. Now, the key is you got to figure out who to look for, like who to zero in on. And if you don't have a lot of funding, y'all need to check out the Foundation Directory online. Foundation Directory online, right? And they have access to libraries all across the country. And every library, well, there's a library in almost every community or every state, I'll say, that has access to the Foundation Directory online. It is literally a database of foundations in this country, of all the foundations in this country. And you can literally just search by geographic area, by name, anything. If you pay for the subscription, you can actually search for how they fund or who they fund, right? You can get a full list of these foundations. So you may be thinking there's not a lot of people out there who's giving money, but then you go to this database and you'll see, oh, snap, it's a lot of people giving money in this area, right? So if you don't have a lot of time, if you don't have a lot of money, then I would suggest that you sign up for a free account with Foundation Directory Online, look around and see what you get for the free access, and then try to find a local library that has access to it or some kind of organization that helps give you access to it so you can look for those grant opportunities there. Okay? All right. Now, what I will say is I am starting a membership society for helping you guys get funding because I realize this is really the crux of the matter. It's money. In order for you to do what you need to do, in order to have the time, the space, the freedom to do what you need to do, is money. So I'm going to be teaching in that community actually every month, and I'm going to have a different theme. And the theme for March actually will be grants. So the society launches March 1st. If you're not on the wait list, please go ahead and join. Yolanda's going to be dropping the link. But every Monday, I'm going to be sharing strategies to get you closer that you can do every week. And the topic will be grants. And then I'll also be teaching the first Thursday of every month on grants. And that information will be accessed. It depends on your level, though. Different levels have access to different things. But everybody's going to get a call. Everybody's going to talk to me every Monday because I'm trying to motivate y'all. Okay? I'm trying to motivate y'all. All right. So number 3, drop number 3 to the chat. Rita said, is that through Candid? Yes. The Foundation Directory Online is through candid.org. O-R-G. Number 3, Marquita, I'm glad you said that because that's actually my number 3. That's actually my number 3. Number 3 is all about relationships. Can y'all put relationships in the chat? Because I really want y'all to get this, and I'm going to give you an example of why this matters. So, Marquita, I hope I'm saying your name right. Please forgive me if I'm not. But she said, I think it's around relationships really to get the money. I can write an amazing grant, but I do not have time to meet every single funder and nurture the relationships. So I'm going to talk about that. Relationship is so important with any kind of funding, but particularly with grant funding. And I'm talking from the perspective personally because my last job that I had, I worked for a small consulting firm, and most of our clients were grant foundation. They were grant funders. They were foundations, and most of them had pretty large budgets that we worked with, some of the biggest foundations in the child welfare space. And so I worked a lot with the program officers who worked with foundations. I saw how they gave out money. I saw how they made decisions for making money. And the reason why I started Boss on a Budget is because I saw what they were doing, how they were doing it, and how people assume people give out grants is not how they do it. A lot of people assume you have the perfect proposal and the perfect proposal wins grants. And I'm here to tell you it does not. I just want to say it one more time. The perfect proposal does not necessarily win grants. And what I saw for myself is that when a funder wants you to have the money, they're going to figure out how to get you the money, even if your proposal is not good, even if you don't have everything you need for the grant. If they want you to have the money, they're going to work with you to try to figure out how to have the money. And if they want to fund an organization, then they will. So your question is probably, well, how do I get there where a funder wants to actually fund me, where they actually want to give me money, where they don't care if I don't have what I need in order to get money? This is how. Every funder has a priority or a set of values that they're interested in. It's some kind of strategic plan they're working on, or it's just what their focus is. They have an affinity for doing certain things or funding certain ways. So they're always on the lookout for organizations that fit that profile. And for some funders, that profile of organizations can be mile wide. They could be interested in all kinds of organizations. And for some funders, it's narrow. For some funders, they know exactly who they want to fund and who they want to give money to. They know exactly. And they're looking for that kind of organization. So how do you get in front of those people? My first recommendation for y'all is to understand what they want, understand how they move, look at their staff, look at what kind of information they put out. If they're like a very public organization and they talk a lot, Look at the keywords they use. What do they care about? Go on LinkedIn, look at their program officers, connect to the people who work for their organizations on LinkedIn, see what kind of stuff they're sharing, and that gives you a clue for kind of organizations they care about, right? I also think that you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to those people. If you know that somebody works for an organization, oftentimes a program officer's role is to know you. They have to understand you to see if you're a good fit. So if they have the time and the capacity to learn about you, they will, right? So I would recommend you connect to those people. Find out who those people are, connect with them, and talk to them. They're not always going to want to talk to you, but there are some people who will and want to hear from you, right? And to the point that Marquita said, where you said like you don't have time for every single funder. A lot of times funders work in affinity groups. So if they know that an organization does good work, they'll recommend you, right? Or if they have an opportunity to talk about their grantees, they talk amongst each other and they share information about their grantees to each other, right? Now, this all depends on the type of foundation. Just keep this in mind. Just like there are different types of nonprofits, there are different types of foundations and how they work. But for a lot of, especially a lot of the big ones, they talk. They're in affinity groups. There are all kinds of associations and affinity groups that just cater to funders. So they know about each other. They know who they fund. So my recommendation to you is your visibility strategy should be just as in priority as your grant writing strategy. Your visibility strategy should be just as important as your writing strategy. So as hard or as many times or as much as you're investing in writing your proposals and submitting, you should be thinking about how to be seen. Do you have a platform that you're already talking about? Do you have a perspective or a story to share that you can share over and over again through media, through webinars, through talking at different events, through witness testimony at your local government, right? By being on panels for free events. I'm just telling y'all, if you want to be discovered by organizations, this is one way to do that. You need to be talking about the work that you're doing everywhere you go. And you need to be thinking about how can I be seen and known in the local community, because you're not going to be able to talk to every foundation, but you can be discovered by people who either work for those foundations or who know those foundations and can recommend you. How many times are you getting featured in your local paper, right? Because people can literally find you just by picking up an article. How many times are people like Googling something on YouTube and find some information about some important information you're sharing for your organization, and they learn more about what you do? When people begin to see that you have something to share, you have something of value in terms of information, they recommend you. They believe that you're qualified for the work you do. So your visibility strategy is very, very important to your grant writing strategy. Hey, Cheryl. Right? So this is the other thing I want to share with you. I want to give you an example of this and why this matters. I know a lot of y'all are sitting here and you're like, I don't like talking. I don't like sharing the information. Like, I just want to do the work. I just want to share something with y'all. In order to get the attention of these types of funders that I'm talking about, you have to be open to sharing your information, to sharing more about the work that you do and the impact that you're making. It's not an option. If you want to be discovered, you have to be unapologetic and relentless about sharing the work that you do. And it's not about sharing you, it's about sharing the impact of your work. Because I know a lot of y'all are like, I don't want the attention on me. I've heard you say that. I've heard you say that. But you have to be the voice for the people who don't necessarily have the platform you have. You have a privilege. You have the privilege of having 501c3 status, which gives you a credibility that people will listen to you because you've organized as an organization, right? So people who are going through something, who are experiencing something right now, who don't even have the bandwidth to talk about what they're experiencing, just say a person who doesn't have a home, or a person who's struggling and doesn't have financial resources, and your organization helps them. They don't have the capacity to talk about what they're going through, but you can. You can share their story with other people. You can highlight why it's so important to pay attention to them. You can be the voice for them. And the 501c3 status that you have is an opportunity to give a platform for what you're seeing every day. You have to be the vessel. You have to be the one to share this information. And I know you may not want to be the one, but you have to be the vessel. And like I'm saying, I'm not saying get on and talk about, hey, support my organization. No, hey, this is going on in our community and you need to know about it. Hey, you want to know why this is happening? It's because of this. And as much as you think that people know or understand what's going on or why something is happening, they don't. So if you can shed light on why, even just the why, not even that something is going on, but why it's happening. Because people like to act like they don't see what's going on. There's a lot going on. I believe that this pandemic has exposed so much about what's going on in our communities. Do y'all agree? Do y'all agree? I just see it for myself. Communities are suffering, they are hurting. And a lot of times when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, you can't be going through it and then also be talking about, hey, y'all see what's going on here? Y'all need to pay attention to this. Somebody needs to help do something about this. Hey, right? When you're in the thick of it, you don't have the capacity to do that. That's the privilege you have as a nonprofit. You can create the platform. You should be the voice, honestly. You should be the voice. It's so much more than giving people food or giving people the resources that they need. That's very important. That's so important. It is. But you also need to create the platform to let people know why that's needed. Because when people begin to understand why that's needed, then they can become activated to help you. And that activation includes giving you money, giving you access, giving you support. So if you're looking at this with your nonprofit and you're like, we're just here to provide resources, that's it. Then I push you, I encourage you, I want to challenge you to think about it in a bigger way, to be the voice. Because then when people see the work that you're doing and they understand why it's important and they see what it's like behind the scenes and you rip that curtain, you kind of like rip it and show what's really going on, then people begin to be more engaged in the work that you're doing. So I'm going to give you a quick story with one of my coaches. I've been working with her for a really long time. She found me on YouTube. She started her organization from finding me on YouTube. So proud of them. And she recently just crossed the 6-figure mark from grants, mostly from grants. And she just started in 2019. And the reason why she got to this point where she's now ready to pay staff and all of that is because she realized that people began to hear about the work that she was doing and wanted to know more. So she started going to breakfast with people. She started attending events. Somebody mentioned United Way. She started attending events with United Way and meeting people, doing 15-minute breakfasts to share or coffees to share information about what she was doing, to get advice about what she was doing. And by doing that, when people hear that you're doing good work, they naturally want to help. So in those meetings, she would hear things like, oh, this organization is funding this. You need to apply for that. Oh, you need to talk to this person because she works with this organization and she has ties to this organization and they help find money, right? Or, oh, you're doing this kind of work? I had no idea. This organization needs help. You can partner with them to do this. And from those conversations, and it wasn't a lot of conversations, y'all, she was able to get, I think it was around 5 grants. And the combination of those grants has pushed her past her 6-figure mark. So the reason why she was able to do that is because she was doing something that nobody else is doing, but people were talking about it. People were sharing information. They were hungry for something to focus on this population that people were ignoring, and they heard that she was doing it. This is the thing. They talking about They were talking about her organization doing stuff she didn't even do. People were reaching out to her about stuff she didn't even do, but because they heard so much about her, her name was spreading throughout the city. So I just use that as an example to say that your visibility strategy is just as important as your writing strategy. So as you're thinking about getting grants, I want you to think about what's your overall purpose that you're pushing in your community. What's the thing that people should that resonates with people, that you know what you're doing, right? Like, you know that we're focused on getting this outcome for people. That's all we do. We're going to talk about everywhere we go, and we know how to get it done. We know where to get it done, and we're good at doing it. We're effective at doing it. And that's when people start gravitating to you. My last piece before I go answer questions is this. I started working with them in 2019. People started reaching out to them in like 2021. But it wasn't until 2023 where they got their momentum. So sometimes this takes time. So I'm going to encourage you again that a no does not mean that you should stop. A no does not mean that your program isn't needed or isn't worthy of funding. You got to keep doing the work. And if you really do believe in this mission, if you really do believe in the work that you're doing, then a no shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't. It's going to discourage you. It's going to make you pause and think, but it shouldn't stop you because you know that this work is so needed. All right, y'all. While I am rounding up and looking at the questions, share with me what resonated the most with what you heard tonight. Share with me. Share with me. Okay, so I saw Veronica had a question, so let me go back. Coach, should I include the amount it would cost for each participant to participate in a program as a part of my program budget? Yes. So this is a question on Instagram, y'all. She's asking, should she include the amount it would cost for each participant to participate in a program as a part of her program budget? Any expense that is required to run your program should be in your program budget. Yes. So it also may take admin time, dollars to run your program, because um, you need to think about like entering paperwork, calling people, recruitment, all of those things that you're not necessarily interfacing with clients, but you still need to do the work in order for the program to be successful. That time should not be discounted. Like, you should not ignore that. That should be in your budget. You need to include everything it costs to run your program in your budget. Don't be shy. Because here's the thing. Hey, Jessica. Here's the thing. Like, when you're afraid to put in the true cost of your budget, you are shortchanging yourself. And a funder may question why your budget is so low. So all this time you're looking at your stuff and you're like, I'm afraid to ask for 10,000, even though it really costs that much. I'm afraid to ask for 10,000 or to say it costs 10,000 because I don't want to seem like I'm asking for too much. For real, on the other side, a funder may be looking at what you're doing and saying, why does this only cost this? Why are they not putting all of this in? And it may make them question you. So I really, really urge you to be specific and be realistic about what it really costs to run your programming and to be honest about that. Do not shortchange yourself. Don't. It's actually going to backfire. It's actually going to backfire on you, okay? So, right. Okay. So Shoshana said, there's a grants database called GrantStation. I don't know if it's worth it. I have used GrantStation and it is worth it. I'm going to just say, especially if you're new and you're small, they typically only list foundations that don't that allow unsolicited requests. So that means, like, sometimes foundations won't let you reach out if they don't ask you to reach out, but they only list opportunities where you're allowed to reach out no matter what. And there's always a sale going on, and you can get it for a discounted price a lot of the time. It is absolutely worth it. And can I tell you a little secret? If you join my membership society, you might get a little discount on GrantStation. I'm not saying just letting you know, once you get into the society, you may get you a good price for that GrantStation, under $100. Don't say where you got it from. Shoshana said, I'm in Uganda. How do I get in the right room? So I don't have a lot of experience doing international work, but I will say this. The room is virtual now. You don't have to be literally in the same space, right? We can virtually connect with people all the time. I think your strategy should be around like how can you get into on panels and things like that and meet people who are meeting like I would even like connect with people who are doing similar work in Uganda or in neighboring countries in Africa and meet people like online. Start building up your connections list. Get on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is the easy way to see where people are and where they do work and start connecting that way. You can do 15-minute virtual chats. I have reached out to people on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'm just interested in the work you're doing. Can we meet? That happens all the time. All the time. That's normal. That's a normal part of business. So, oh, Veronica, you can hit me up right now. You can get it right now, actually. Okay. All right. I'm just looking for any more questions. Marquita said, only simply because she had some meetings and relationships. Yes. Yes. People literally started calling her and say, I heard you're doing this stuff. Hey, we need help. I heard you're working with this population. Hey, we need help. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Josh said, I'm struggling to keep going. It's hard at the moment. Can we encourage Josh tonight? Can somebody send Josh a good word tonight? He is being open and vulnerable about it being really hard. And I don't want y'all to give up, right? I don't want y'all to feel like, there we go. I don't want y'all to feel like your work is in vain. Somebody needs you. And just because you don't have a nonprofit or your nonprofit isn't where you want it to be doesn't mean you're not helping somebody. Let's just be clear. Let's be clear. You don't need a nonprofit to help somebody and to bless somebody. It is a way to access more money and resources. But you could be blessing somebody right now. So when you beat yourself up about the fact your nonprofit isn't successful, please don't let that translate for you. That means you're not helping somebody. You're helping somebody right now by just making the issue clear to people, by sounding the alarm that something is going on. So the name of the grant database was Grant Station. Grant Station. And we also talked about the foundation directory online through candid.org. You can check them out for free at your local library, but only certain libraries have it. And some of those libraries may be far from you. Just keep that in mind. Tiffany, should I create a LinkedIn for my org? Yes. Veronica said, Josh, it's super hard, Josh, but we are called to do the work. And because of that, we're going to come out victorious. Amen. All right. Okay, I'm just looking for more questions. Sorry, y'all. I'm just looking like with my mouth open. Okay. Sandy said, most grant fund organizations that look like they're bored. Most grants fund organizations that look like they're bored, not the communities that they serve, according to a former VP who resigned and started a piggybacking process for new nonprofits in New York. I want to address that real quick. That can be true. There have been studies that show that a lot of foundation boards or nonprofit boards are less diverse, and people just naturally, people tend to fund or gravitate to things they're comfortable with that they see themselves in. So if your boards are already not diverse, and diversity isn't just about race, it's about gender, it's about ability, it's about socioeconomic status. If you don't see yourself necessarily in other things, you may not support it or understand it. That's why I explained your visibility strategy is just as important, because you want to build what comes from visibility is credibility. What comes from visibility is trust. And when people trust that you're the right organization, they can't help but to see what you're doing, right? And it's not always like a win. Like some people, they may still fund organizations that they know and trust, but that's them. You focus on what you need to. Building your visibility is the key to get more eyes in your organization and for more people to support your organization, especially through grants. I have so many stories about the foundations that I work with they were looking for people to fund. And these are foundations that don't necessarily always have open calls for proposals. And they asked us to find organizations to fund. They asked us as consultants to find or suggest people who would be interested or who would need this money. They're looking, when I say people are looking for you, I really do mean it. I'm not saying it just to hype you up. They asked us to find people. They're looking. And the fact that they're looking and they're asking means they don't know who's out there. That means they don't know that you actually exist. So if they did know you exist, they wouldn't have to ask. They wouldn't have to wonder. They would know to go to you. So that's the call for you to get yourself out there. Okay? All right. I saw one question early on I wanted to address. Sorry, y'all. Oh, sorry, y'all. I'm looking for a question I saw early on, and I just want to make sure I didn't miss all your questions. Are the grant databases worth it for foreign nonprofit organizations? For GrantStation, yes, they have international opportunities too, and so does the Foundation Directory Online. It may be less, and I actually just saw this. This is so funny. I just saw an article about this. So most foundations are actually in Europe and North America. So there are not a lot of foundations on other continents. So they may fund in other countries, but they're not, like, comparatively, there are way more foundations in Europe and North America. So it's one of the reasons why you may not be finding everything that you need. So just keep that in mind. But yes, GrantStation has international opportunities too. All right, I can't see the other question. I think we're good, y'all. Thank you so much for encouraging Josh in the chat. Y'all lift each other up. Be there for each other, because this is the thing. Some people are going to look at your organizations and not want to give you credit or not believe you because you're new and you're small. And then there are some people who who can't work with you because you're new and you're small, and you feel like you can't get the help you need. Do not use that as a way to discourage yourself, y'all. Keep going. This is my encouragement to you before I get off. Please keep going. Just because you can't find the help you need right away. If it was easy, everybody else would be doing it, y'all. If it was easy, everybody else would be doing it. But for some reason, you're doing it. Right? For some reason, you are stepping up to do this kind of work. So encourage yourself, right? Sometimes encourage yourself, and then surround yourself with people who will also encourage you when you need it. And if you can't get it from your family, if you can't get it from your board, come on here on live and get your weekly encouragement. Okay, get your dose of encouragement, and also join my membership society, because I'm going to be encouraging you every Monday. We're going to do a call, and we're going to get you focused and ready to tackle the week. All right. Thank y'all so much. There's some good stuff going on in the chat on YouTube. If y'all are not on YouTube, please check it out. Please check it out. Awesome cuts. Send me a DM. I'll respond to you in a DM. And hey, Sean, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing good. How you doing, lady? All right. Thank y'all so much. Have an awesome week, and we will see you on next Sunday. Bye.